Kamala Harris lost the election for several reasons. We can say it was misogyny. We can say that America is just not ready for a black woman president. But there were some glaring inadequacies in her campaign. And the main one being that she abandoned the Democratic base in favor of platforming establishment Republicans, war criminals like the Cheneys, and outright refused to listen to the voices of the people who, through several different polls, were telling her the issues that were important to them. But Harris, like all the other establishment politicians before her, will be okay. They're not going to be sitting around the kitchen table wondering how they're going to live, how they're going to pay the bills. They're not going to be wondering if ICE is going to come knocking at the door. It's the ordinary people who are going to suffer through the next 4 years and beyond. Because make no mistake, the path that we're on now is irredeemable regardless of which party is in power. The Democratic Party, especially over the last year, has shown that they're unwilling to listen to the voice of the people if that voice does not align with the party's ideologies. And as we've clearly seen, those ideologies align more with the desires of a wealthy donor class than with the needs of the Democratic base. But I want to look at a bigger issue, and that is black representation. When people like Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey and even Beyonce are successful, black people feel proud. We feel good to see that someone like us is represented in those spaces. Regardless of how I feel about Harris and her campaign and the Democrats' positions on certain issues, I myself would have wanted to see a black woman at the helm as a president of this country. But it's high time that we as black people come face to face with the recognition that having black people in those positions of power is not going to save us. Because if we examine the system very clearly, very rarely is anyone elevated into certain positions unless they prove themselves loyal to whatever ideology. And the President of the United States must be a proponent of imperialism through world exploitation, world domination, and capitalism. When you think about it, who exactly did Barack Obama serve when he was president? What did he do? What great big policies did Barack Obama implement that removed or reduced systemic racism in this country and uplifted the lives of black people? And what makes people think that Kamala Harris would get into that office and carry out some kind of agenda that would massively uplift the lives of black people in this country against the prevailing ideology, the prevailing policy of US imperialism? No president in American history has done so. Not Barack Obama, and I highly doubt that Kamala Harris would have been able to, even if she wanted to. But what we have been seeing, especially in the last 10 years, is that we have had prominent black people who have advanced the ideology of white supremacy and capitalism. In fact, what we see is a growing list of black people who have willingly put themselves forward to advance the interests of the empire, to advance colonialism, to promote white supremacy because they have been promised a reward. We see them in the United Nations, in the US Supreme Court, and in various arms of government advancing the agenda of white supremacy and American imperialism. And it's not just in the United States. In the United Kingdom, we see black people like David Lammy and Kemi Badenoch, who are now the most prominent faces advancing the policies of white supremacy, colonialism, and imperialism. So when I say that sometimes when black people get into certain spaces, they act like colonizers and people get offended, that's because when I say colonizers, they're thinking white people. But we have long evolved from that. Where we are now is that we have a system where people of all races, all nationalities and hues who have put themselves forward as vehicles of colonialism, vehicles of this imperial structure. They want to advance capitalism because they benefit personally from it. And they are willing to move away from the well-being of their own people. They're willing to move away from any policy that advances their people for their own personal gain. And so when you get excited about having a black person in the White House and seeing a black person having a seat at the table, you really should be asking yourself, who are they speaking for? Are they speaking for you when they're at that table? Are they at that table because they have proven themselves to be loyal, that they can be trusted to sell out their own people when it really matters? Black representation will not save us. And if we don't understand that in order to fight these systemic injustices, we have to be willing to fight whomever is representing the system, no matter what they look like, no matter their color, no matter their race, no matter their nationality. If we are not ready to fight whomever is there to promote the injustices in the system, then we won't be ever able to dismantle the system.